The gun clattered to the desk as Victoria finally broke down completely, great heaving sobs that shook her entire body. Marcus moved quickly, securing the weapon before pulling Victoria into his arms. She collapsed against his chest, and he held her while she cried out months of exhaustion and loneliness and fear. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered against his shirt. "I can't keep pretending to be strong when I'm falling apart inside." "Then don't," Marcus said simply. "Let me drive you home." The ride to Victoria's penthouse took place in loaded silence. She sat in the passenger seat of Marcus's reliable Honda, a stark contrast to her usual chauffeur-driven Mercedes, staring out at the city lights with empty eyes. Her Streeterville apartment building was the kind of place where doormen wore white gloves and knew better than to ask questions about why the CEO of Blackstone Capital was arriving at 2 a.m. with her head of security instead of her usual entourage. In the elevator to the 40th floor, Victoria finally spoke. "Why didn't you call the police?" Marcus considered his answer carefully. "Because sometimes the best way to protect someone is to give them a chance to protect themselves. And if I'd pulled the trigger? Then I would have failed at my job." He met her eyes in the mirrored elevator wall. "And I don't fail, Victoria. Not when it matters." Her penthouse was exactly what Marcus had expected, a museum of wealth and taste that felt more like a showroom than a home. Everything was perfect, expensive, and utterly cold. Victoria kicked off her designer heels and padded barefoot across marble floors to a bar that probably cost more than Marcus made in a year. "Drink?" she asked, already pouring herself 3 fingers of something that looked older than his daughter. "I don't drink on duty." "You're not on duty anymore. It's after midnight." "I'm always on duty when it comes to you." The words hung between them, loaded with implications neither of them was ready to examine. Victoria downed her whiskey in one burning gulp, then turned to face him with eyes that had gone from desperate to calculating. "Marcus," she said slowly, "what do you want from me?" The question was so unexpected that Marcus felt his carefully maintained composure slip. "What do you mean?" "Everyone wants something. My board wants profit margins. My competitors want me to fail. My investors want quarterly growth. What do you want?" Marcus looked around the penthouse, at the art that cost more than most people's houses, at the view that literally looked down on the entire city, at the woman who had everything and felt nothing. "I want you to remember why you started this company in the first place." Victoria's laugh was sharp and bitter. "I started this company to prove that a foster kid from the South Side could beat men born with silver spoons in their mouths. Mission accomplished." "That's not why you started it," Marcus said quietly. "I read your first business plan. The one you wrote when you were 22. You wanted to create opportunities for people like you. Kids who came from nothing but had everything to give." Victoria went very still. "How did you get that business plan?" "It's my job to know everything that could be used against you. But reading it, that's when I realized you weren't just another corporate shark. You were someone who'd forgotten who she used to be." "That girl died a long time ago," Victoria said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Did she? Or did you just bury her so deep you forgot how to find her?" Victoria poured another drink, her hands steadier now. "You know what the difference is between you and everyone else in my life, Marcus?" "What?" "You're the only person who's ever looked at me and seen someone worth saving instead of someone worth using." The confession hit Marcus like a physical blow. He'd spent 2 years watching Victoria from the shadows, noting her habits and vulnerabilities and patterns. But he'd never considered that she might be watching him too, seeing something in his careful protection that went beyond professional duty. "Victoria," he started, but she held up a hand to stop him. Please don't say whatever careful, professional thing you're about to say. I know this is complicated. I know I'm your boss and you're my employee, and there are about 1,000 reasons why this conversation shouldn't be happening." She met his eyes across the expensive space between them. "But I also know that in 35 years of life, tonight is the first time anyone has ever chosen to save me instead of profit from my destruction." Marcus felt the walls he'd built around his heart begin to crack. "What are you asking me?" "I'm asking if you would consider letting me try to earn something I've never had before." "Which is?" "A real family." Victoria's voice broke on the word. I know I have no right to ask. I know I come with more baggage than any sane man would want to deal with. But Marcus, I've never wanted anything as much as I want the chance to be part of what you and Lily have. The offer hung between them like a bridge neither of them was sure they were brave enough to cross. Marcus thought about Lily, asleep in their modest apartment across town, dreaming of the marine biology degree she wanted to pursue. He thought about the scholarship applications piling up on their kitchen table, the ones he'd been trying to fill out alone because even with his salary, college was still a distant dream. But mostly, he thought about the woman standing in front of him, brilliant, broken, dangerous, and offering him something he'd never dared to want for himself. One condition, Marcus said finally. Victoria held her breath. Anything. No more guns in the office. Her laugh was genuine this time, bright and surprised. Deal. As Marcus prepared to leave, Victoria caught his arm. Marcus? Tomorrow morning, there's something I need to tell you. Something that will probably change how you feel about me. What kind of something? Victoria's expression grew serious. The kind that might make you hate me. But I promised no more secrets, so you need to know. Marcus felt a chill of foreboding. Tell me now. Tomorrow, Victoria said firmly. When you're ready to hear it. When I'm ready to lose everything I just found. The next morning arrived with all the subtlety of a hostile takeover. Marcus woke to 17 missed calls from Victoria, each one more frantic than the last. His phone was buzzing with a new call as he stumbled toward the kitchen to make coffee. Marcus, thank God, Victoria's voice was tight with panic. I need you to come in early. Before the markets open. What's wrong? Everything. The Meridian acquisition, there are complications. Things I didn't tell you. Things that are about to become very public. Marcus felt ice form in his stomach. What kind of complications? The kind that could destroy us both. Can you be here in an hour? An hour later, Marcus sat in Victoria's office watching his boss, his whatever she was now, pace behind her desk like a caged predator. Gone was the vulnerable woman from the night before. This was Victoria Blackstone in full corporate warfare mode, sharp as a blade and twice as dangerous. Talk to me, Marcus said. Victoria stopped pacing and met his eyes. The Meridian acquisition wasn't just about stopping their embezzlement scheme. What else was it about? Revenge. The word fell between them like a stone into still water. James Meridian was my foster father. Marcus felt the world shift sideways. What? From when I was 12 to 16. Before I aged out of the system. Victoria's voice was carefully controlled, but Marcus could see the tremor in her hands. He used to tell me I'd never amount to anything. That foster kids like me were broken goods, destined to fail. He used to, she stopped, shaking her head. It doesn't matter what he used to do. What matters is that I spent 20 years planning to destroy him. Victoria, there's more. She turned to face the window, unable to look at him. Lily's scholarship to the marine biology program at Northwestern? The full ride that came out of nowhere last month. Marcus's blood turned to ice. Tell me you didn't. I funded it. Through a shell company, completely anonymous. She earned it, Marcus, her grades, her test scores, her application essay about wanting to save the oceans. But I made sure she got it. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus stood slowly, his mind racing through the implications. How long have you been watching us? 2 years. Since you started working here. Victoria's reflection in the window looked small and defeated. I had you investigated when I hired you. Standard procedure. But the report mentioned Lily, mentioned how hard you were working to save for her education, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. You've been manipulating our lives for 2 years. I've been protecting them, Victoria said fiercely, turning around. Do you know what happens to the children of Blackstone Capital employees who cross me? Ask anyone in this building. Ask them what happened to David Morrison's kids when he tried to steal clients. Ask them about Sarah Chen's college fund after she leaked information to our competitors. The threat was clear, and Marcus felt something dark and cold settle in his chest. Are you threatening my daughter? I'm telling you that I have the power to destroy her future with a single phone call. And I'm also telling you that I would burn this entire company to the ground before I let anyone hurt her. Victoria's voice broke slightly. Because somewhere in the past 2 years of watching you be the kind of father I never had, I fell in love with both of you. Marcus stared at her, trying to reconcile the woman who'd held a gun to her head last night with the corporate predator standing before him. What do you want from me, Victoria? I want you to understand that I'm exactly the kind of person you should protect your daughter from. And I want you to understand that I love you both too much to let you walk away without a fight. Before Marcus could respond, Victoria's assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Ms. Blackstone? The FBI is here to see you. Victoria's face went white. Send them in. 2 agents in dark suits entered the office with the kind of confidence that came from holding all the cards. The older one, a woman with steel-gray hair and shrewd eyes, introduced herself as Agent Sarah Mitchell. Ms. Blackstone, we'd like to ask you some questions about your relationship with James Meridian and the circumstances surrounding yesterday's acquisition. Victoria straightened, every inch the powerful CEO again. I assume you have a warrant? We have Mr. Meridian's cooperation, Agent Mitchell said smoothly. He's been very forthcoming about your history together. Very forthcoming about the threats you made during the acquisition negotiations. Marcus felt Victoria's carefully constructed world begin to crumble around them. What threats? Agent Mitchell smiled coldly. Ms. Blackstone apparently told Mr. Meridian that she'd been waiting 20 years to watch him lose everything, the same way he'd made her lose everything when she was a child in his care. She also mentioned that she'd spent considerable resources ensuring that his crimes against children would finally be exposed. Because he was abusing foster kids, Victoria said, her voice deadly quiet. Because he was stealing from their trust funds and selling them to the highest bidder. Because someone needed to stop him. Ms. Blackstone, Agent Mitchell said, pulling out a recording device. We'd like you to listen to something. The voice that filled the office was Victoria's, but it was distorted with rage and alcohol. You destroyed my childhood, James. You destroyed my ability to trust anyone. And now I'm going to destroy everything you've built, piece by piece, until you know what it feels like to have nothing. Victoria's face crumpled. I was drunk. I was angry. But I never threatened to hurt him physically. No, Agent Mitchell agreed. But you did threaten to fabricate evidence of child abuse if he didn't agree to the acquisition terms. That's not, Victoria started, then stopped. Marcus watched the blood drain from her face as she realized how her words must have sounded to someone who didn't know the truth about Meridian's crimes. We'll need you to come in for questioning, Agent Mitchell said. And Mr. Chin, we'll need to speak with you as well about your role in this. After the agents left, Victoria and Marcus sat in her office in stunned silence. The city hummed below them, oblivious to the fact that everything had just changed. They're going to arrest me, Victoria said quietly. Maybe. Probably. Marcus's voice was hoarse. Victoria, why didn't you tell me about Meridian being your foster father? Because I knew you'd try to stop me. And I needed to finish what I started, even if it destroyed me. Even if it destroyed us? Victoria met his eyes, and Marcus saw the truth there before she spoke it. I never believed there was an us to destroy. People like me don't get happy endings, Marcus. We get revenge, and if we're lucky, we get to die knowing we took the bastards down with us. Marcus stood up, his decision crystallizing as he looked at this woman who'd saved his daughter's future while planning her own destruction. Agent Mitchell was wrong about one thing. What? You didn't fabricate evidence against Meridian. You exposed the truth. And if they're going after you for that, then they're going after the wrong person. Victoria shook her head. Marcus, you don't understand. I used corporate espionage, illegal surveillance, and extortion to build the case against him. Everything I did was criminal, even if my motives were right. Then we'll face it together. No. Victoria's voice was fierce. You have Lily to think about. You can't get dragged down with me. You think I'm going to abandon you now? After everything? I think you're going to protect your daughter, which is exactly what you should do. Victoria moved to her safe, pulling out a thick envelope. This contains everything you need to know about Lily's scholarship, plus her college fund that I've been building for the past 2 years. It's all legitimate, all documented properly. Even if they arrest me, even if they freeze my assets, this money is clean. Marcus stared at the envelope like it was a bomb. How much? Enough for Northwestern, plus graduate school if she wants it. Plus a trust fund that will make sure she never has to worry about money. Victoria, I can't. You can and you will. Because she's brilliant and deserves every opportunity in the world. And because I love her like she's my own daughter, even though I have no right to. The confession broke something open in Marcus's chest. But why risk everything for us? Victoria sat down heavily, suddenly looking exhausted. Because you were the first person who ever made me feel like I was worth saving. And Lily, her voice cracked. Lily looks at me like I'm someone she could actually love, not fear. Do you know what that's worth to someone who's never had it? Marcus thought about his daughter, about her essays praising strong women in business, about how she'd started asking when she could meet the Victoria Blackstone she'd read so much about. She already loves you. Which is why I have to protect her from what's coming. The media circus, the investigation, the trial, I won't let her be caught in that crossfire. What if she wants to be? What if she's stronger than you think? Victoria looked up at him with something that might have been hope. What are you saying? I'm saying that maybe it's time to stop making decisions based on fear. Maybe it's time to trust that the people who love you actually want to fight for you. Before Victoria could respond, her phone rang. The caller ID showed Lily's school number, and Marcus felt his heart stop. Mr. Chin. The voice belonged to Principal Martinez. I'm calling because Lily never showed up for school today. Her first period teacher says she called in sick, but she used your voice authorization code, which seemed unusual. Marcus's world tilted. What authorization code? The one on file for emergencies. The one that allows her to excuse absences in your voice. Marcus had never given the school any such code. He looked at Victoria, who had gone pale as death. Principal Martinez, I need you to check something for me. When was that code established in Lily's file? Let me see. It looks like it was added 2 years ago, right after you started at your current job. Is there a problem, Mr. Chin? Marcus hung up and turned to Victoria with eyes that could have cut glass. Where is my daughter? I don't know, Victoria said, but her hands were shaking. Marcus, I swear to you I don't know. But you know something. What aren't you telling me? Victoria moved to her computer, her fingers flying across the keyboard. The authorization code, I set it up as a security measure. In case something happened to you, in case she needed help and couldn't reach you. You gave my daughter the ability to skip school whenever she wanted? I gave her a safety net, Victoria said desperately. Marcus, there are people who would hurt her to get to me. I've been protecting her for 2 years. From who? Victoria's screen filled with security camera footage from around the city. From James Meridian's associates. From people who know that the easiest way to destroy me is to hurt the people I care about. Marcus felt reality shift again as he watched footage of men in dark cars following Lily to school, photographing their apartment building, tracking their routines with military precision. How long has this been going on? 6 months. Ever since I started planning the Meridian acquisition. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. I hired a private security firm to watch her, to make sure she was safe. But this morning, they lost contact with their surveillance team. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The message was simple. If you want to see your daughter again, Ms. Blackstone will withdraw her accusations against Mr. Meridian and transfer all acquired assets back to Meridian Financial. You have 24 hours. The photo attached showed Lily sitting in what looked like a warehouse, looking scared but unharmed. She was holding a newspaper with today's date, and her eyes seemed to be looking directly into the camera with the fierce intelligence Marcus recognized from her mother. They have her, Marcus said, his voice hollow. Victoria was already moving, grabbing her phone and car keys. I know where they're holding her. How could you possibly? Because it's one of Meridian's old properties. A warehouse on the south side where he used to take foster kids when he wanted to teach them lessons. Victoria's voice carried 20 years of suppressed rage. "I've been planning to burn that place down for years." Marcus grabbed her arm as she headed for the door. "We call the FBI. We call the police. We don't go in alone. We can't. If they see police, they'll run, and we'll never find her." Victoria's eyes were blazing with something that was part love and part fury. "Marcus, I know these people. I know how they think. The only way to get Lily back is to give them what they want." "Which is what?" "Me." The drive to the South Side warehouse took place in tense silence, both of them lost in their own fears and calculations. Victoria had insisted on taking her car, a black BMW that could outrun most things on the road, and Marcus found himself grateful for her reckless driving style as they wove through Chicago traffic. "Tell me about the warehouse," Marcus said, checking the gun Victoria had given him from her private collection. Meridian bought it in the 80s, back when he was just getting started in the foster care business. Officially, it was a storage facility for his financial company. Unofficially, Victoria's jaw clenched. It was where he took kids who misbehaved. Kids who asked too many questions about where their trust fund money was going. How many kids? Dozens. Over 20 years, dozens of foster children passed through that warehouse. Most of them learned to keep quiet. Some of them. Victoria's voice trailed off. Some of them what? Some of them never made it out. Marcus felt sick. And the authorities never investigated. Who was going to report it? Foster kids don't have advocates, Marcus. They don't have parents who ask questions when they disappear. Meridian made sure to choose children who wouldn't be missed. But you survived. Victoria's smile was sharp and terrible. "I survived because I learned to be more ruthless than he was. And because I made a promise to every kid who didn't make it out that someday, I'd burn his world to the ground." They pulled up outside a warehouse that looked abandoned from the street, but Marcus could see fresh tire tracks in the mud and movement behind blacked-out windows. "How many men does he have?" "For maybe 5. Ex-military contractors who specialize in corporate intimidation." Victoria checked her own weapon, a sleek pistol that looked like it had never been fired in anger. "Marcus, I need you to understand something. If this goes wrong, if something happens to me, there's a safety deposit box at First National with everything you need to expose Meridian completely. The key is in my desk drawer, bottom left. Nothing's going to happen to you. Promise me. Promise me that if I don't make it out, you'll finish what I started. You'll make sure the world knows what he did to those kids." Marcus looked at this woman who'd somehow become the center of his world in the space of a single night, who'd been carrying the weight of dead children and stolen childhoods for 20 years. "I promise. But you're going to make it out, Victoria. We all are." They approached the warehouse from different angles, communicating through earpieces Victoria had somehow acquired. The building was larger than it had looked from the street, with multiple entrances and enough blind spots to hide a small army. But Marcus's military training kicked in, and within minutes he'd identified the layout and probable defensive positions. 2 guards at the main entrance, he reported quietly. 1 walking patrol on the east side. I don't see the others. They're inside with Lily, Victoria's voice crackled through the earpiece. Marcus, I'm going through the front door. I want them focused on me while you find another way in. That's suicide. That's strategy. They want me, not her. I'm going to give them what they want. Before Marcus could argue, Victoria was walking up to the main entrance with her hands raised, looking every inch the powerful executive even in the face of certain death. Marcus watched through binoculars as the guards grabbed her, roughly searching her for weapons before dragging her inside. The warehouse interior was a maze of shipping containers and abandoned equipment, perfect for hiding hostages and staging ambushes. Marcus moved through the shadows like the ghost he'd learned to be, following the sound of voices toward the center of the building. He found them in a cleared area surrounded by stacked containers, lit by harsh industrial lights that cast everything in stark relief. Lily sat tied to a chair, her school uniform torn but her eyes defiant. Victoria knelt on the concrete floor in front of a man Marcus recognized from newspaper photos as James Meridian, older now, gray-haired and soft around the middle, but with the same cold eyes that had probably terrified countless children. Victoria Stone, Meridian said, using what Marcus realized must have been her name before she'd built her empire. You always were the stubborn one. Let the girl go, Victoria said. You have me. That's what you wanted. Meridian laughed, the sound echoing off the concrete walls. What I want is my company back. What I want is for you to publicly admit that your accusations were lies, that you fabricated evidence to justify a criminal acquisition. And if I do that? Then maybe the girl lives long enough to see her next birthday. Lily's eyes found Victoria's across the space between them. Don't do it, she said clearly. Whatever he wants, don't give it to him. Dad taught me that bullies only stop when someone stands up to them. Marcus felt his heart swell with pride even as terror clawed at his throat. His daughter was facing down corporate killers with the same courage her mother had shown in the face of cancer. Smart girl, Meridian said, pulling out a gun. Too bad she won't get the chance to use that intelligence. That's when Marcus moved. His first shot took down the guard to Meridian's left. The second caught the man reaching for his weapon. Years of military training and 2 years of studying this building's layout had prepared him for this moment, and he moved through the warehouse like judgment itself. But Meridian was faster than Marcus had expected. The older man grabbed Lily, pressing his gun to her temple as Marcus emerged from the shadows with his weapon drawn. Drop it, Meridian commanded. Or I'll put a bullet in her brain. Marcus froze, his gun trained on Meridian but unable to take the shot without risking Lily's life. Let her go. This is between you and Victoria. No, Meridian said, his voice taking on a conversational tone that was somehow more terrifying than shouting. This is about teaching Victoria the same lesson I tried to teach her 20 years ago. That people like her don't get to win. That Foster trash doesn't get to rise above their station. You're wrong, Lily said, her voice steady despite the gun at her head. People like Victoria don't just get to win. They deserve to win. Because they know what it's like to lose everything, so they fight harder for what matters. Meridian's grip tightened. Shut up, you little. No. Lily's voice rang out clear and strong. You're just an old man who hurts kids because you're too weak to fight someone your own size. Victoria's worth 1,000 of you. The gunshot was deafeningly loud in the enclosed space. For a moment that felt like eternity, Marcus couldn't tell where the bullet had gone. Then he saw Meridian stumble backward, clutching his shoulder, his gun clattering across the concrete floor. Victoria stood behind him, holding a small pistol Marcus hadn't seen her draw. I told you I'd been planning this for 20 years, she said calmly. Did you really think I'd come here unarmed? Marcus rushed to untie Lily while Victoria kept her gun trained on Meridian. Are you hurt? He asked his daughter, his hands shaking as he worked at the ropes. I'm okay, Dad. But we need to call the police. He admitted to everything, the missing kids, the stolen money, all of it. I recorded it on my phone. Marcus stared at his daughter in amazement. You recorded it? Lily grinned, holding up her phone. You taught me to always have a backup plan. And Victoria taught me that sometimes you have to be willing to risk everything to protect the people you love. The police arrived 20 minutes later, followed by the FBI agents who suddenly found themselves with a very different case than they'd expected. Lily's recording, combined with financial records Victoria had been gathering for years, painted a clear,